everyone, my name is Claire with Clarely Yours, and today I'm going to be starting a new series called Crime and Calligraphy with Claire. I was inspired by the amazing Bailey Sarian, who does something similar. She talks about true crime stories while she tries out awesome makeup looks. I am not particularly good at makeup, not at all. My eyebrows don't really even match, and I'm not even sure how to fix that. I'm able to make myself look halfway decent, but like I said, makeup. I like makeup, but it's just not something I'm good at. I can't do like those really cool like eyeliner and eyeshadow looks at all. My thing though is calligraphy and kind of art. I like to mix the two together, make pieces that have both art and calligraphy, and I spend like a lot of time just making pieces, mostly for myself, just to keep myself busy. And I thought that I would try to put the two together and talk about something I'm interested in and do some calligraphy and some art, right? So I've been into true crime since I was probably like in elementary school, and it probably started with Goosebumps books because they were kind of suspenseful and they had like twists and turns. And then I started reading mystery books, and I like to solve the mysteries, try to figure out who's the bad guy, how did they do it. And then also my family used to watch CSI together, and I know CSI is fake. It's not exactly like, it's not true crime at all, but I really started getting interested in like the methods that people use to solve crimes, like forensics and criminal investigation. And eventually I actually started getting really interested in like the psychology behind like the mind of a criminal. So that being said, I want to try to avoid glamorizing the perpetrators because, you know, obviously they're not good people. You know, they're murderers, okay? They're not good people. But when I talk about them, or I give you more information, more details about them, it's more just to see like how their mind works, and also to try to learn from what they do, and try to see like how we can better protect ourselves from these sort of things happening to us, I guess. I also really want to try my best to honor the victims of these horrible acts of violence, and I really hope that I can make that happen with today's case. Also, if you're not into true crime, you definitely want to kind of probably leave, because this video is going to contain some brief descriptions of murder, obviously. Also, some strong adult language and adult situations, and I mean, it's violence, and there's some inappropriate sexual behavior as well. So just quick little disclaimer, this is pretty much content for mature audiences, right? There's some strong language, some descriptions of crime scenes, etc. Okay. If you're not into true crime, you might be wondering like, why would somebody be into true crime? And like I said, I think it's because I really like to learn how criminals' minds work and how to sort of not become a victim myself. And also, and this is super weird and random, but I have like this kind of irrational fear that someday I'm gonna have a kid and they're gonna exhibit signs of a sociopath or a psychopath or something. So I want to try to like identify these signs early so that we can like get them help and they don't become a murderer. And I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, you know, all of these people were kids at one point, you know, and they start out young. Like some of these people, you know, they start out like murdering cats and dogs and stuff, you know, that's like not a good sign. So anyway, I know that's crazy, but that's kind of how my brain works. So anyway, I also really want to focus on the local true crime. So I'm from Texas, and I'm going to try to stay in my region for now, like the area, the city, and maybe some surrounding cities that I'm in. And also, the reason behind that, the reason I wanted to focus on local true crime is because we all know the Zodiac Killer, the Night Stalker, Ted Bundy, Charles Manson. We know these people. They've gotten tons of media coverage. Some of them have movies or TV shows made after them. We know them, and they're fascinating to me as well. But I like the local true crime because there's so much less, like, they're not as well known, and there's still, like, a lot, like, to glean from them. And anyway, so yeah, I just want to focus on, like, smaller stories because we've heard the big ones before, so I want to talk about some smaller stories, right? Okay, so today's story is about who I'm going to call the O.P. Schnabel slasher, Christian Batista. And I chose this one because December 31st is the 7-year anniversary of the murder of Lauren Bump. I actually went to middle school with Lauren, and even though I didn't really know her very well, the story just hit really close to home, and I've been wanting to talk about it for years. I live in San Antonio, Texas, and there's this park nearby that is part of a fairly recent greenway expansion for jogging and biking. The park's been around since the 60s, but they've been expanding this greenway, so they connected a lot of different parks together, so it's a hugely popular place for jogging, biking, hiking, all that kind of stuff. It's called O.P. Schnabel Park. I've lived like 10 to 15 minutes from this park my whole life, so it's super familiar, like right in my neighborhood. You know, just a very normal, what you think of as a normal, safe park, right? I even, went there with my family growing up. Well, on New Year's Eve in 2013, Lauren Bump was jogging in the park when she was attacked by a man named Christian Ivan Batista. She was stabbed 27 times, and her body was left in a pool of blood. She was found later that day by a family going on a picnic who had seen Batista on the paths earlier. The wife even reportedly stated he fucking killed her upon finding Lauren's body. Batista was arrested on January 4th, 2014 in response to a call placing him back at the park and looking suspicious. He was then charged with Lauren Bump's murder. During his trial a few years later, he blew kisses at witnesses and court staff. He giggled, muttered, and grunted, and stared at women in the courtroom. His own lawyer even described him as, quote, weird and creepy, according to my local paper, but also noted that creepy behavior is not illegal. Which, I mean, yeah, but your dude's not helping himself out, right? He's making himself look like a total creepo. Despite his odd and erratic behavior in court, he was deemed mentally fit to stand trial by Dr. Michael Arambula, a forensic psychiatrist. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. Arambula. I'm going with Arambula. According to Dr. Arambula, many people make assumptions about people when they commit such acts of murder, believing them to be mentally ill. However, most of the time, this is not the case. In up to 50% of cases that he has seen, drugs or alcohol are more likely the culprit. Mental illness is only represented in about 3% of the cases that he has worked on. So I want to just kind of get on my soapbox here for a second. I know it's easy to be like, oh, that person did something horrible. They committed this horrible, violent act. They hurt people. They did something terrible. And it just seems like it's so far out of the realm of normal that we immediately want to be like, well, what's the reason for it? And so, a lot of times we point to mental illness. We're like, well, they must be mentally ill. But actually, the facts are that people who have mental illness are more likely to be the victims of violent crime than the perpetrators. So, even though he may not seem like he's, in the right mindset or whatever, that's not the same as mentally ill. There might be something going on with him, but he doesn't have, schizophrenia or depression, or he might have something else going on, maybe a mental disorder or a personality disorder or something, but it's not the same as a mental illness. Just throwing that out there. So, Testimony from witnesses revealed that on the day of the murder, Batista had been heard whistling the Kill Bill whistle song as he walked the trails. So I'm going to play this song for you guys if you aren't familiar with it. I mean, just picture, I'm going to show some pictures of this guy, but, oh my god, like, he gives me the creeps, to be honest. So, just imagine this dude walking through the park, whistling this song. It just, it gives me the creeps, gives me the chills. Like I said, it just, it adds like a whole other layer of like, disturbing, right? He made numerous people extremely uncomfortable, including a married couple and another young girl who took out her phone and pretended to be meeting up with a friend, which seriously could have saved her life. Her name was Michelle Debs, and she said that he was watching her and walking slower and slower. She grabbed her phone and pretended to be talking to someone, talking loudly and saying things like, "Hey, what do you mean you're at the park? You know the path I'm on, just jump on it and you'll see me any minute." She immediately left the park and called the police. Like, super smart move. Like, that probably saved her life. Her terrifying testimony left Lauren's family in tears because, I mean, that must have been so awful. You know, they must have felt like she was probably so scared, you know, in her final moments of life. And it's just so tragic. During Debs' testimony, Batista was asked by the judge to stop sticking his tongue out at Miss Debs. Like I said, like, this dude, he's just doing all kinds of super creepy things. Andrew Billings, a member of the San Antonio Fire Department, and his wife also encountered Batista that day, and Billings reportedly testified as saying that he felt an instinctive urge to put himself in between Batista and his wife, who said that, quote, "she just got such a terrible feeling from him." I don't blame her. Batista was in and out of jail since 2003. He had actually just been released from prison for aggravated robbery on October 29th, 2013, which is just a couple of months before this murder. You know, he'd only been out for a couple months and then he goes and murders somebody. And I mean, aggravated robbery is not exactly like a small crime, so he's just like escalating here. His roommate, Ryan O'Shea, reportedly gifted Batista the murder weapon as a Christmas gift just a few days prior to the attack. He testified as saying that Batista used the 8-inch combat knife, allegedly saying he, quote, "stuck some bitch and had to get rid of it," after O'Shea asked about the whereabouts of the knife. The roommate thankfully reported this to the police once he realized that Batista had killed an innocent young woman. However, police reported that O'Shea did not tell them about the knife in the initial 7 statements he gave to them. His defense was that at the time he was using heroin and methamphetamines. So I guess maybe he just wasn't like in a good mindset at that time, but I mean, I guess he eventually did report it, so. O'Shea also stated that after Batista returned from the attack, his behavior seemed odd and he started to give him the creeps. I mean, I would hope so. I mean, he just killed somebody. Batista also had tattoos on his body that tied him to the Texas Mexican Mafia, including the number 13, because M is the 13th letter of the alphabet, and a large Aztec warrior on his back with the word soldado, which means Latin American soldier. Batista was convicted by a jury that took only 20 minutes to deliberate, and they sentenced him to prison in February of 2016. Sorry, they sentenced him to life in prison in February of 2016. Since this time, Batista filed an appeal stating that he was in fact not competent to stand trial, like Dr. Arambula said earlier that he was, and Dr. Raleigh Wood, the director of medical services for Bexar County's detention facilities, an expert for the defense determined that he was not competent. Dr. Wood noted, Mr. Bautista's speech is very disorganized, and when you're asking him questions, he does not respond to questions in a manner that can often be easily understood. He may skip from one topic to another. There may be long delays in his speech before he responds, and his speech at times may just be nonsensical. Bautista, according to Dr. Wood's evaluation, also spoke of having an implant in the back of his head, hearing voices, and talked about being paranoid about witchcraft. He would also yell and make random sounds or shout random things. Social workers who interacted with Bautista reported to Woods that he was antisocial, inappropriate, and especially hostile towards females. He would make vulgar comments to them and even masturbate in his cell while they were present. I don't know. I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. You know, I have no diagnosis for him, but he's just not, something's off with this guy, for sure, obviously. He also had been reported to make disruptive noises, such as barking, or he would flip his hair, but Peace Officer Dustin Treadwell believed that Bautista did these things for attention, and he said he knows when he's being watched and when he isn't. Woods also described his behaviors as provocative. So he's doing this to try to provoke people. He was even removed during court proceedings for some of these distracting habits. Debbie Bailey, a clinical nurse specialist at the Bexar County Jail, stated that she believed that his conduct and actions were most likely exaggerated to get out of things or to get his way. Her diagnosis was that he was malingering, so he's doing it for attention. He's doing it to get what he wants. Later, Dr. Wood would admit that it was possible for Bautista's actions, particularly his speech issues, to have been rehearsed, and it was concluded by the appeals process to uphold the court's original decision. Thank goodness. They were basically like, nope, you're still going to be in jail, buddy, for a long time. Good for them. O.P. Schnabel Park has a pretty bad record when it comes to vehicular thefts and break-ins. There were 51 in total reported in 2014, which was the same year as Bautista's arrest. But murders and other violent crimes are not, common, other than, of course, this horrible tragedy. So the park is generally considered pretty safe, but I have kind of another creepy connection to this park, which kind of just makes the park a little spooky to me, you know? So in 2008, a girl named Heather Garza, who was 18 at the time, went hiking in O.P. Schnabel, and unfortunately she fell off a cliff and died. So I actually went to high school with this girl, so I know 2 people that I went to school with who died in this park. So, like I said, it's a little spooky, but generally speaking, it is a nice park, and I still go there sometimes. I just, I make sure I go with a buddy, so I do recommend that if you go, just use the buddy system. So earlier I said I really wanted to try to honor the victims, so I want to talk about Lauren for a second, because, like I said, it's a horrible tragedy that they had to go through something so terrible and that their lives were taken from them. So I just want to take a minute to talk about Lauren specifically. Lauren was 24 at the time of her grisly murder, and she was studying to become a physician's assistant at Harding University in Arkansas. She was very involved in ministry work and had worked in Guatemala on medical missionary trips. Here's a piece from Lauren's PA school application. I would love to be in a learning environment that promotes commitment to Christian values and encourages my faith. I feel that Harding will not only supply me with sufficient education for practicing as a PA, but as well as a means to experience spiritual growth and strengthening of character. I also believe that Harding will help me attain my long-lived dream of serving in the mission field as a PA. It's just so sad that, she wasn't able to live out her life and become a PA. So in closing, I would like to say something in her memory. An author whom I love, named Jeff Zentner, once said that he wanted to write about a life well lived, using a character who died young from a senseless act of violence. Even though he was young and hadn't lived much, he had lived well. And I think that Lauren was a great example of that. She lived well. I'm sorry that she also did not get to live long, but maybe the thing that we can glean from this tragedy is to just live well. If you would like to donate to the Lauren Bump Memorial Fund, the address is Frost Bank, 100 West Houston Street, San Antonio, Texas, 78205. Again, this is the 7-year anniversary of her death, so it might be something to do to honor her, to donate to the Lauren Bump Memorial Fund. Alright, so a couple of things like I mentioned. I really don't want to make it seem like I'm in any way glamorizing the killers in these cases. Any background that I'm giving on them is really just for like educational purposes, just to show how their minds work, and maybe to help us learn how to spot these creepers and maybe even avoid ending up in bad situations ourselves. Also, since the cases that I'm going to be showcasing are going to be less in the spotlight, or maybe not always, but sometimes they'll be less in the spotlight, not so like major news, like Zodiac killer type stuff, there may not be as much information on either the victims or the killers, so my videos might kind of vary in length. I want to aim for about 10 to 20 minutes. With the exception of today, I want to try to upload on Fridays. Today I uploaded on a Thursday because today is the anniversary of Lauren's death, the 7th anniversary of her death. And in the future, I might have other special occasion videos that I'll try to upload on certain dates. I would like to be able to get to once a week, but for now, I'm going to say twice a month because I go back to work on Monday and I don't know exactly how much time I'll have to devote to it. Because, you know, I gotta pay the bills. Another thing on the same kind of topic is that my videos right now are going to be a little bit rough. I'm by no means a professional YouTuber. I definitely don't have any of that sweet ad revenue coming in, so forgive any quality issues. I'm still learning and working with what I got for the time being. If this works out and people like it and maybe it takes off, maybe I can afford some better equipment and learn better editing skills and things, but for now, like I said, I have a day job that keeps the roof over my head and all that good stuff. Last, and I'm by no means calling anyone out here, but I hate it when people don't cite their sources because, spoiler alert, I'm a teacher, so I guess it's a professional hazard. I will always try to cite my sources in the description box for anyone who's wanting to learn more about the cases themselves. In this particular story, the most fascinating thing that I found, the best source that I found for this case was the Court of Appeals opinion memorandum, because that was where I got a lot of my information about Batista's behaviors, and there were a lot of different medical and correctional experts who had interacted with Batista. And it just really helped me to like get a good look at his mind and see how he acted and everything. Personal opinion, I think that he just put on a show. He was trying to be deemed mentally unfit, but luckily it didn't work. I hope he stays in prison forever. I hope he doesn't get parole, because I wouldn't be surprised if he were to do it again if he got out. I just don't think that he will learn his lesson. I don't think that he'll be reformed. Yeah, that's just my opinion, so I kind of hope he just rots there. Anyway, I hope you guys stay safe out there, live well, and good riddance to 2020. I will see you guys in the new year. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share it so that maybe I can start getting a little bit better at doing this. Alright guys, you have a wonderful and safe and happy new year, and I will see you guys next time, probably in a couple weeks. Bye!